All right, let's get right into this because what we're talking about today, it's not just another small step for science. This is a giant leap. We are right on the edge of turning the literal building blocks of life into super sophisticated quantum sensors. This is where biology and quantum physics finally smash together. And the results, well, they're absolutely mind-bending. So, this is the question. The one that's been bugging scientists for years. Can you actually take something that needs to be incredibly precise, incredibly isolated, like a quantum sensor, and make it work inside the most messy, chaotic place you can imagine, a living cell? I mean, on the surface, it sounds completely impossible. And this lays it out perfectly. It shows you exactly why this is such a huge challenge. On one hand, you have quantum labs. They're freezing cold, they're empty, they're controlled down to the last atom. On the other hand, living cells. They are the exact opposite. They're warm, they're ridiculously crowded, and everything is in constant chaotic motion. The thinking was that any delicate quantum state would just get destroyed in a fraction of a second. Well, until now. To really appreciate how big this new breakthrough is, we've got to first look at what was, until now, the gold standard for seeing inside our cells. We're talking about a tool so revolutionary it won a Nobel Prize, but a tool that has finally kind of hit a wall. For years and years, these fluorescent proteins have been our flashlights into the biological world. By making certain parts of a cell just light up and glow, scientists could do amazing things. Track how cancer spreads, map out the tangled web of neurons in our brains, and just watch life happen on a microscopic level. They completely transformed biology. And their impact was so huge, so profound, that in 2008, the work was recognized with the Nobel Prize. So, this wasn't some niche little gadget. It became a core part of how modern biology is done, a total game changer. But here's the catch. What if you need to measure things that you can't see? Those subtle, invisible forces like the teeny tiny magnetic fields that are created during chemical reactions. Your standard fluorescent proteins can tell you where something is, sure, but they can't tell you what it's feeling or sensing. All they can do is glow. And this brings us to the breakthrough. This is where scientists used a clever quantum trick of the light to turn these simple glowing proteins into something way more powerful. This is the real heart of the revolution. Okay, let's break down this key idea, the radical pair. Now, the name sounds a little complicated, but the concept is actually pretty straightforward. When one of these proteins absorbs light, it creates two molecules whose electrons are linked up. Think of them like two tiny spinning compass needles that are temporarily talking to each other. And here's the crucial part. That connection, that link, is incredibly sensitive to even the weakest magnetic fields around them. So here's how it works step by step. First, the protein soaks up some light. That energy makes an electron get all excited and jump. Then our radical pair forms with those linked electron spins. Now, and this is the cool part, any little magnetic field inside the cell can start to mess with those connected spins. And here's the genius of it all. That interference actually changes how brightly the protein glows. The glow itself becomes the readout. It tells you exactly what the magnetic field is doing. And what's so amazing is that this wasn't some one-off discovery. In a perfect example of how science works, two brilliant teams, one in Chicago, one in Oxford, stumbled upon the same incredible conclusion, but they got there using totally different methods. So the Chicago team, they worked with a cousin of that famous green fluorescent protein, and they figured out how to basically take control of an electron's spin inside it. Meanwhile, the Oxford team took a whole different approach. They engineered a protein from a plant. They called it MagLOV to have an even stronger response to magnetic fields. So you have two different proteins, two different strategies, but one incredible outcome. Proteins can be quantum sensors. All right, so we've covered the how. Now let's get to the most important part, the why. Why is being able to stick these little sensors inside a living cell? Why does that change literally everything? Well, the old way of doing quantum sensing used materials like diamond. And as this quote explains, yeah, they're super sensitive, but just try putting a tiny shard of diamond exactly where you need it inside a living cell. It's clunky, it's invasive, it's pretty much impossible for most things you'd want to study. But proteins, oh, they are a completely different story. With these, you just give the cell the right genetic recipe, and the cell builds the sensor for you, on site precisely where you want it. They literally self-assemble. It's like having a microscopic manufacturing plant that you can direct to any part of the cell. And the possibilities this opens up are just staggering. We're not just talking about detecting magnetic fields anymore. This tech could help us get clearer images inside those noisy, messy cellular environments. We could locate cells in 3D space using magnetic fields, kind of like a biological GPS. We could watch in real time as drugs actually connect to their targets or see electrons flowing during respiration. All of it happening live inside a cell. This really is the next frontier in biology. But, like any massive breakthrough, it's not perfect yet. There are still some challenges to figure out and a pretty long road ahead. The main hurdle at the moment is sensitivity. These new protein sensors, they're not quite as sensitive as their solid-state diamond cousins. But I want you to notice those two crucial little words there at the end, for now. And that's the perspective we really need to have. I mean, think about it. The original fluorescent proteins that won the Nobel Prize, they weren't perfect right out of the box. It took decades of work to tweak and improve them into the powerful tools we have today. The journey for these new quantum sensors, it's really just getting started. So that leaves us with this final, really exciting question. Now that we've found a way to actually listen in on the subtle quantum whispers happening inside our own bodies, what secrets, things that have been hidden from us for so long, are our cells finally going to tell us?